Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. I'm Rebecca Lambert, Marketing Manager at HSE People, and today I'm joined by Brendan Maloney, Managing Director for HSI Skillko, and he is going to be talking us through future-proofing workforce competency, digital-first strategies for safer teams. Over to you, Brendan.
Hi, Rebecca, and thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for taking your time out of your day to listen to a webinar that will hopefully be nice and precise and to the point around competency and compliance management. Before I start, to tell you a bit about myself and how HSI Skillko is doing what it's doing. I'm health and safety qualified myself, was working in this sector for about 15 years. And as part of that journey, working with businesses across the UK and Ireland, struggled with how to manage training management, competency management, and how do we know we people employed to do the jobs and we're safe to train, safe to do the jobs we were employing them to do. Out of many tests against lots of different companies, we formed Skillko. And we started trading it in 2019 to predominantly construction utility companies, because that was my background, in particular the energy sector. We grew pretty quickly around that sector because we were solving real life problems and reducing administration at the start around training, certificate management, which led into onboarding, digital onboarding inductions, which led into contractor onboarding, contractor inductions once we get to that point now. Last year, we were acquired by a global company called HSI, who offer EHS modules and e-learning content to various different businesses and industries globally, which has allowed us now expand further into not just construction utilities, but every aspect of every sector that has staff, has contractors, and needs to streamline the processes from that. So it's an exciting time for us, and it's an exciting time for us to tell you some of the new things that we're doing, but also what we're already doing for some major multinational companies and smaller contractors across the UK and Ireland and further in Europe as well. So today what we're really going to cover is how we can streamline processes, or how you should take maybe some snippets of what we do and what we've learned around making your competency and compliance systems a bit more streamlined and less paper-based for yourselves. The struggles in the sector at the moment is there's lots of blended workforces. So there's a difference between direct staff, agency staff, subcontractor staff. But not only that, when you're trying to get them to be trained and competent for the point of service under your projects, you have struggled with languages, how the content is distributed out to them and how you manage that as well. So it's very important to take factors like that into consideration when you're trying to put processes and systems in place as well. Sites are very distributed now. So we have companies and clients that have projects or teams or manufacturing plants in Ireland, in the UK, in the Middle East, and managing that in one central location, demanding the same levels of standards, but different legislation across different countries is hard to do. It's definitely very hard to do on paper-based systems or Excels, but even hard on some software solutions. But to streamline that and to add automation is what hopefully will give you some snippets on that today as well. Manual systems, as I briefly covered there, that is very much every country runs its own, every Excel runs its own. It just takes someone to have a bad day to put wrong information into an Excel, which messes up data and figures and ultimately if people are trained or not as well. Contractor onboarding, we're going to talk a lot about not just onboarding the contractor's staff and doing the digital inductions and things like that, but also the business itself. How do you manage the pre-qualification questionnaires? Is it paper-based? Is it distributed out to one single point of failure in your business that has to manage 5 different departments with the contractor, and then take that information and send that back into your own business, procurement, health and safety, finances, and stuff like that. So it's how to manage all of that and to streamline it a bit better as well. And then the last thing is what we are all about is once you have a system in place, how do you manage your full circle compliance? So you've them onboarded, they're approved contractor, you've distributed content out to them, you've built learning paths and job roles matrices, which is all great, but how do you keep renewing it? It's not just a database to give you expiry dates, it's how do you automate that? And automation is everything now for what we'll go through as well today. So when we talk about the workforce competency gap, the gap between trained on paper and competent it starts with mobilization. So how do you initially get people into your organization at the start? How do you onboard them? Do you ask them questions on a paper base? Do you do a digital induction? Do you get them to sign off risk assessments and RAMs? And how long does that process take? Once you join it all together and the information has to go to different departments in your organization, it does take quite a time for only one person to do, and it's how to streamline that. People talk about competencies a lot, that it's all about, is Joe Bloggs trained to do the job he's supposed to do? Absolutely, that's key. But also with competencies, it's not just about the end user role. It's about the competency. If you're working for a client, what do they demand of you? If you're a multinational and you work in different countries, what competencies do you need to work in these countries, like Ireland or the UK or whatever it might be? And then if there's a project, a specific project that might be a CDM project, what do you need to be compliant in there? And it's to measure all them aspects to truly know, are we competent to be in this place at this time doing this job? Very easy to do with a system, very hard to do with manual processes as well. When you push all of that stuff down onto a site team, when people are focusing on production and focusing on timelines to get the project completed, there's lots of different burdens on them to make sure that no accidents or incidents happen. And they need to be comfortable to know that at least the people that we have on these projects should be here and they're able to do what we're employed to do. Taking away all of that stress and relief from them, that they can focus on the programs and focus their time on accurate data is very important. And it's very important to have a system in place that gives them that data at their fingertips rather than looking for it or approving it all the time as well. And then verified contractors. Verified contractors is very important because it's not just about, as I said earlier, the actual the people coming in from the contractor that they're inducted and trained. Is, are they verified to be there? Have they the correct insurances? Have they the correct financial information? Have they any health and safety statistics? And to streamline all of that, and for the end user on a project to know, I know all my contractors, I know what they're doing, I know their staff, is a very powerful thing to put in place. When we're talking with site-based compliance or manufacturing-based compliance, depending on where your tasks and your operations are set. So any approach must be tailored to who is doing what, when, and where. A lot of asks, a lot of circuit compliance, a lot of verifying skills, which is all great and all important, but you need it in real time. It's not that you have to wait to an end of a week to find out that you had 5 people on a building site on Monday that shouldn't have been there and they were there all week. So it needs to be live, it needs to be accurate, and it needs to be task specific too. If you're bringing individuals in to do certain tasks, you need to know that they're trained and competent before they even get there, and the basics are done. So they're streamlined, you've done the onboarding, you've done the induction, and then they arrive. When all of that is in place, the ongoing refreshers, and which I'll talk about a lot today, is once you get your system in place or once you implement a system, make sure there's automation to it. Because there's lots of systems that will just say, here's what's actually going on the site, but not proactively pushing out automation to say, well, this is what we've done about that. Joe Bloggs needs manual handling. You actually have bolted on our e-learning package, so that's gone out to him. Now he needs to be visually assessed after that's completed. It's always doing the jobs in the background for you, that you're able to manage the data. And that's very important once you have your ducks in your row, as you will, to make sure you have your Excels, you have your people, you have your contractor. How do I automate this from that point on? Otherwise, it just keeps turning into a monotonous task to make sure you have all of these things to do. And what I'm going to explain now over the next 5 steps is what we do. Hopefully it's right. That works with lots of different sectors and industries, how easy it is to implement a solution, and what are the jobs to be done. So what jobs do we do that streamlines it for health and safety professionals and operational leaders across any sector, really, as we talk about it. So we're going to talk about role breakdown, about breaking down it into a role, project, customer, country based, and give examples of that. Some verification, streamlining operations with that. Training integration, so dynamic refresh cycles. Training integrations is using what you have now and how to build on that. So everyone will have something, but it's just how to build on it and tweak it to get it into a solution that's easier for you to manage, but also it's correct as well. Real-time tracking, and then like every different processes, Ours is no different. Once it's in place, it's how you do your continuous improvement, how to make it better all the time, either by telling companies like us feature requests that you want to maybe say it'd be good to this or good to that. But not only that is looking at your own processes and procedures and maybe making them less complicated in some cases, getting tied up with paperwork or procedures and stuff like that. So within role-based specific competency requirements, as I mentioned at the start, everyone focuses immediately on, is Joe Bloggs trained to drive that machine, or is Joe Bloggs trained to do this, to operate this machine in a factory? When you're actually building on a competency roles, you would start at the roles. I have 15 roles in my business, from project manager to an apprentice electrician. This is what each skill set requires. And then I want to assign this to all the people to see where my gaps are. So it's to streamline that. Me saying that sounds easy. Most of the time it's an Excel sheet to say what training you have, an Excel sheet to say these are my job roles, and then an Excel sheet to say here's our gaps. And then every time you try and update that, you're updating 3 spreadsheets all the time. So streamline that into one system. What you can do in a really good competency management solution is not only do for the job roles, you can then say, well, we're deciding to take a project in Scotland. And to work in Scotland, you need to have these minimum requirements, legal requirements to get inside. So then you can measure all of your workforce and all of your contractors based on who do we have that's physically allowed work in Scotland? Who do we have that has the right to work? Or who do we have, if you're working in Southern Ireland on a construction site, you need a SOLAS safe pass no matter what. So it's to measure your workforce against, well, are they able to go in here? Very handy for multinational companies, or even just companies that UK and Ireland based, which is a lot that cross over to do that. If you're working for a specific customer and the customer says, before you come in here, you need X, Y, and Z, you can do competencies based on your customer requirements. That's a very commonly used feature in our arsenal with our companies, because they normally work for clients who demand to prove competency as well based on their criteria. And that's not just doing an induction or uploading your training records. It could be signing off risk assessments, method statements, policies and procedures to show it's all there. And it's real time and it's live as well, all the way across. You can then go one step further in that and include competencies, not just based on, I have signed off this document, I have already done this induction. Internally, you can manage workbook login of technical skills. Very common use case for us would be apprenticeship management. We work with a lot of electrical companies, a lot of plumbing companies. They would have lots of people going through apprenticeships. They would have all their different phases over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And the individual, you're able to map all of your apprentices, see the learning path, or we call them learning paths, learning journey they're on. And not just that they have to do training and turn up to different locations. They can be logging evidence all the time. I've completed this fuse board. I have wired this overhead power line transformer. I have done this plumbing in a factory for a boiler house, and they can be logging that, uploading it, and building their competence all the way along. The beauty for larger organizations that have that skill set inside, you can see it all live and what stages they're going through the different phases as well. That's just based on an apprentice example, but the model is there. It can be someone that's going for chartership that has to log CPD. It can be someone in an organization that is you're upskilling them. You want them to become a project manager, and here's the journey they have to go on. So it's very important to put your groundwork that you've done with the roles into action, and it's not just letting you know what's going out of date. It's how to fill in that gap and how to upload the information in one location as well. So when you're setting things out, set clear standards of what competence looks like within the organization. Start with the role, go easy. Just do the bare minimum of what you need first to say, this is what it means for us to be legally compliant to work on our organization. You can always add the flair after that to say, right, we want to better ourselves to be, we want to have more educated workforce. We want to do more on manual handling or more on something else. But just start with the basics first. Between their legislation that you're with, the role that they're doing. So if they're a machine operator, they have their CSCS tickets. You're working in England, so you need to be compliant with the legal registers. And then if you're working for a customer, what does your customer need to have? Determine the learning paths, whether it's apprenticeship model that I mentioned, or we have some companies that have a 16-week onboarding process. So they start, and then week 1, they have to do all their orientation. Week 2, they have to sign off on their policies. Week 3, the risk assessments, and they manage that on a 16-week journey to get everything done. So you can build all your skill sets based on that. And the verification workflows to build that in. So once all of that is done, and although it's automated, who do you want to sign off on all this? So there's a workflow that it comes off to say, Joe Bloggs has gone through the onboarding for 16 weeks and I've approved all the stages. He's good to go on to the different sites as well. We talk about your training integration. So at the moment, look at what you have. If it's a bolt-on system, if it's a competency system that you already have in place, or if it's Excels, which is totally okay. We use them ourselves in our organization as well. They're a great use. But get on it and start building out your mapping on that alone. Even if you don't have a system in place, build out the mapping on your Excels, build out your staff, find out what training you have, then find out what training you need by job roles, and then put it together and then see how much the administration burden is to look for the solution you need to close in gaps then as well. Start digitalizing your journeys in after that. If someone needs to be trained as a project manager, or if it's basic stuff like getting onboarded and inducted, get everything done digital if you want it to be. Turn your PowerPoints into videos, upload your videos, add your onboarding forms, and get that first part of the compliance piece done. That someone is trained, onboarded, inducted, and assigned your policies before they start working with you. That's the first level of compliance to get done. Then find out, are they trained to do what they're supposed to be doing after that then as well. Prioritize high risk. If you're depending on what sector you're in, focus on the high risk roles immediately. Focus on the high risk customers that put the most demand on it, and then work back from there then as well. Always, guys, important to note that start off with the bare minimum. What makes us legally compliant? And then build on it, as I said at the start as well. So once all that hard work is put in and in place, then you need to have real-time tracking. That shouldn't be the burden. This is where a good system comes in place, that it's doing it for you. It's telling you what's going out of date, not just they're expired, but what are you going to do about it? What's the system going to do about it as well? It'll flag all the expiries. It'll do auto push to say, well, Joe Bloggs is expiring. We already have content mapped in our system for that. It's gone. Joe Bloggs is expiring. It's actually a workbook they need to do. We sent out all the workbook entries that they need to log as well. It's very important that the end user, the person that you're measuring, knows what's going on. So we provide mobile apps. So they download the app and they can see everything on that. It's easy. It's exactly what they only need to see, which is very important. We don't bombard them with lots of fancy things that they've no interest in. Only what they need to see and what they need to do. And very clear on the app, which I think we've images to show it towards the end, is to tell them you are compliant to be here in the company, you are compliant to work for this customer, and you are compliant to drive that excavator. And they can see that. And when it starts going out of date, it shows their level of compliance going out as well. Always good to have a system that will integrate with other systems. One of our biggest integrations we do, 2 of them actually. One is we integrate with access management system, time management systems. So if someone tries to go up to, for example, a building site or a manufacturing plant, and our system can tell that time management to say, Joe Bloggs doesn't have the induction or doesn't have this, that, and the other, whatever criteria you set out, so it won't let them into the gate. The other side of it is we integrate a lot with HR systems. Joe Bloggs will start, so there'll be a starter in our system. Joe Bloggs has left the business, so they'll be removed from our system as well. So these are kind of normal examples of integrations. So when you are looking at a solution, make sure they're open API that you can integrate with other ones. A competency compliance and a contractor platform is part of your tech stack. It's not your whole EHS stack. So make sure it talks to other solutions as well along the way. And proactive resource management for any operational people on this call. Having a solution like ours isn't just about making sure that you know the gaps that you have and that people are compliant. It's also about forward planning. Prime example, what our clients use our system for, especially the operational people, is you might have a project coming up. You need a certain set of skill sets for that role in 6 months' time. So you can map out a learning path to say, I have 50 people that are 80% to this role, and we need to close this 20% gap and you can automatically turn them onto a learning path to find that journey to get them up to the level of what you need them to be done. If you're on a building site and you need to find out who has what skill sets, you can search for skill sets and it will tell you who these people are. So it's not just about a point in time. You have to use the solution for proactive measures as well. And that's why with our line of work and who we work with, it's normally it's obviously a very strong mix with health and safety leaders, but also it ties in operational leaders because it's about what's going on in the project and what skill set they need to do certain tasks as well, without having to hound health and safety people all the time to find out who's trained in what as well. And then everything, this is no surprise to anyone in this call or in this webinar, is the review competencies data regularly. It's always about the continuous loop. So with a solution like ours, it's trying to do the automation to take away the tedious work all the time. And you're able to look at it to say, well, how can we make it better? How can we get our roles better? How can we get our people trained better, easier, and more interactive as well? Our role in a business is to take away the burdens, to take away the administration, to streamline and to show you competency and automate the competency. And the role for people taking on it is to say, well, how can we make our systems better and better and better all the time? So when we talk about the end user enabling real-time readiness, this is a solution what we have is our mobile app, iOS or Android enabled, and it gives the worker power in their hands. So you're able to whatever information you're managing on the overall solution, the contractor can see, the individual can see what certificates they have. So it's given them the power there to say, well, we're trained with this, we're fully compliant with this customer, we're fully compliant to work in the business, we're fully compliant for these job roles in a nice, easy view for them all. The individuals make sure that they get alerts, make sure they have an easy way to log. If you're doing workbooks or apprenticeship management, and an easy way to log the information up there for on-site works. And also an easy way for them to consume the information and go back over the information whenever they see fit. It's not it's a quick tick box and it's gone. They can also come and go to it, and you will always see them logins and interactions all the way through on the main system as well. And just for easy basic things like distributing our toolbox talks or any safety alerts, we work with a huge amount of energy clients across the UK and Ireland, and lots of times they're just using the system to send out weather alerts, you know, to make their staff aware that not to work in the power lines because there's electricity or there's a lightning storm coming. So doing all of them things, but to make it as easy as possible for the end user, because it's important information you're sending them, not just nice to have information. That's why the app needs to be clean, simple, precise, and it knows what they know what they're doing as well when they log in. When you roll the app back, which comes to we segregate things out into what we call teams, but it could be projects, you know, business units, whatever business calls them themselves. This is a view which is very important with whatever system you do bring in place, is that the people responsible for a certain bunch of users, whether they're contractor agencies, that you can clearly see how compliant they are, how compliant our team is. Are we functional to work with this client? Is everyone in here able to work with the client? Is everyone in here able to work in this country? If that's how you decide to do it, they're just examples I've given. Are my contractors onboarded? And what information is renewing, that's coming up for renewal with them? Is their insurance? And what learning paths and journeys have I people on, and what stages they're at? So a lot of information in one place, but very easily laid out that you can see how your team is performing. And you can also go back a level then if you're a health and safety leader in an organization, that you can see the whole organization. So how compliant are we with our how compliant are we with the minimum requirements to work for this company? How compliant are we for each project? How compliant is John Doe with all of his teams? Is he managing it well? And where are the gaps, and how can we help out as well? So it's very, very, very important to have a very clean user interface, whether it's an internal bespoke system that you have or you're building, or if it's another solution that you're looking at taking on. It has to be easy to use, and it has to be full of automation as well, as I keep saying that throughout the whole lot of this webinar. So when you're scaling across sites and workforce, again, recapping on a lot of the things we went through, you set your requirements, what you need, all mapped out, either on Excels or whatever you need to do. Find your digital implementation strategy. What's the best way to get this digital? What stages do I go first? Do I go my inductions first? Do I go my job roles second? And then I go through my customer base or country, whatever it is, to manage your compliance. And then once all that's done and implemented, you need two things after that. You need dashboards to tell you what's going on and automation to fix them dashboards, to feed off the back of that, to say, I know this is going on, but we've already put this in action with the automation tails off the back of it as well. So a few scenarios that we have when we talk about some of the features that we have in our system and how some of our clients have taken them into real world scenarios. We have one in particular. We have a large data center builder. They have thousands of staff and they work in different countries all throughout Europe. So one of the difficulties before we implemented our solution was, first thing was we mapped out with them is their onboarding and inductions, all the different languages they need them in because they're consumed by different users across Europe. And we streamlined that process that took literally probably about 40% of their onboarding inductions away because we digitalized it in the different countries, the different areas. Once we done that, because that was the immediate thing we needed to do, we then mapped what each country needed from a legal requirement. So then they were able to know, I have 50 people in Ireland that need to go to Denmark. What do I need to do to get them to compliant to work in that country? Again, it's not just about the training. Do they need to have right to work? Do they need to have certain types of visas? Do they need to have different working rules or hours that they do in these different countries that you're able to map into our system and it tells you what's going on? Then after that, we worked on the apprenticeship management. How many apprentices they have, what stages they are, and when they're going to become competent to be full-time electricians then after that. And we were able to map all of that in, all in a relatively quick period of time because they had the data, but just in different locations. And last but not least, we were able to then individually tie all their contractors into their system. So they're able to use them from one location to another, and it streamlines their whole workforce in one solution, even though it's a full European operation as well. A second example then was with a large distribution network owner. A network owner is an energy owner. They own the power lines in different parts of the UK and Ireland. We focused fully on contractor compliance for them because lots of contractors working in extreme high risk areas. We developed a set of job roles that they had in place. We digitalized them, distributed them out to their supply chain, and their supply chain were able to assign them roles to their staff. And it told the contractors, this is the gap you have with these people, and this is what you need to do to get compliant to work for this DNO as well. That was a huge task. It was based across all of kind of nearly 20% of the energy network across the UK. But now it's streamlined into dashboards and into automation that once a contractor wants to join someone new to that organization, they know what the gap is, they know what they need to assign them to, they immediately know the gap, and then they go on to a path to say, this is how we close this as well. And you can put time limits and things like that on it for them. So two very good use cases based on competency and compliance and a full kind of scenario of our feature sets and what we do as well. So guys, to finish the recap on everything, on the whole the webinar that we spoke about from start to finish, identify your key competencies, go with your highest risk, normally start with your legal requirements. Review what you currently have in place and build on that. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing ever wrong with anything when it's being measured. It's just that you want to build on it and maybe make it easier for yourself. By doing that, you can build out your competency frameworks, roles, teams, countries, clients, whatever it is, and then implement real-time verifications. So a solution like ours that's able to digitalize it or update your own system if they have them capabilities, maybe look to see if there's anything that can give you more real time rather than waiting on reports every week to find out what's going on. And then it's too late sometimes in that case. Integrate with e-learning or mobile onboarding. E-learning is very important. Obviously, we have one of the largest portfolios of health and safety e-learning and operational e-learning globally. Very, very handy when you assign it to a job role because it can auto assign the content out to the individual as well. And everything you do and everything you're mapping out, try and find out the best way to automate it. It's all well and good having a system that gives you statistics to tell you where you are now, but what do you want the system to do about it as well? The prompts, the alerts, the auto assignments, the gaps, everything like that, that you try and automate it as much as possible to make life easier for yourself and for your contractors as well. So with all of that, hopefully I haven't bored you all to death with all of that information there. Rebecca, I'm going to pass it over to you to see if there's any questions or anything coming in from anyone.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brendan. That was really, really interesting. We have got some questions. I will start with this one. How long would it take to transition from spreadsheet to a digital compliance system?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a typical example for us, if companies have that data on its spreadsheets, that's about 90% of the battle, to be honest. What we would do is we would get that information and upload. We do a mapping session with the client, probably about 30 minutes to an hour. We get the info and we'd set up our system to match exactly what they need with the data they have. So that, depending on a company of about 200 or 300 staff, we'd have that done in about maybe 3 or 4 days. That we'd be able to turn back to them and say, right, here it is in a digital solution. And then we go through the stages from that point on with them. Do you want to upload your onboarding journeys, your inductions and things like that? And we'd help and upload all of that information. So it's a very quick process if you have the basic information in place, your staff, their names, and what training they have. And then we help them on the journey of building out job roles, customers, and teams. By us doing it and showing the clients, they're learning in their language, as in their teams, their departments, their projects, their people. It's easier to do that than just a fresh screen without any data in it as well. So probably standard company, we'd set up 200 to 300 staff. Within 5 days, they'd have an operating model they can be using straight away then as well, if the data is in place before we get to set up.
Wow, that's impressive. A question here about onboarding. Do contractors have any issues having to complete onboarding via a digital system, especially smaller contractors?
Yeah, look, it is definitely a challenge. It depending on, it's getting easier because there's more digital things that smaller contractors have to do. Like, they can't avoid it. It's not just health and safety or onboarding. It's anything. It's banking. It's everything they need to do. So it is definitely getting easier. The solution we've built for contractors, we do get, obviously there's some contractors coming in that struggle. Very rarely we do, but we do get it. We've just built it step by step. So once our clients build out their pre-qualification questionnaires, it's broken into chunks: safety, compliance, financial, quality, whatever it is that our clients want to ask. And that's what's presented to the companies. They fill out stage by stage. They can come back and do it whenever they finish. They can do it on their app. And we've made the process just as clickable as possible, rather than having to do an awful lot either on the mobile app or on the web app as well. So it is absolutely getting easier. We have seen even over the years that contractors, we rarely get any queries in from contractors filling out PQQs compared to what we would have at the start, 3 or 4 years ago when we built the contractor solution. But it definitely is getting easier as well. And once they do it, the beauty about it is they have us from our solution on us, they have a solution that they're able to see what training's going out of date for their staff, what insurance is going out of date, what ISOs are going out of date. They get all of that based on providing that information to you, and they get that for free. So it's that kind of helps a lot.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. You mentioned multinational companies using your solution for different compliance in each country. Can this be used to proactively see what staff require before an upcoming project in a different country?
Yes, absolutely, Rebecca. So as I mentioned, as we're going through the webinar there, one of the points is, especially with operational leaders, I'll use a data center company, for example. They might win a project in Spain. So they can set up a project in Spain. They can set up the requirements of what's needed in that country to work there. They can set up the requirements for the client and so on. And then they can, once they have that set up, they can select all the staff in their organization and contractors to see who meets this requirement, number one, and who are they. And then if they're actually building a team that they want to go there, they're able to add the people to this project, and then it will give them the gap to say, what this project's in 6 months, this is what we need to get for these people to work in that project as well. Extremely useful forward planning tool for operational people in particular, to get the gaps to get ready for going to that project, wherever it might be. Multinationals normally use it for country requirements, like the UK. You know, the right to work stuff. There might be, if it is a building site, there might be set things you need to do on CDM, and they can track and measure all of that based on the requirements that they build.
Fantastic. One individual here, he said, we have 25 apprentices. Can your system remind the end user on what they need to do and when?
Yes, yeah. So once you map out your apprenticeship program onto the system, which is a standard one, probably depending if they're doing electrical works or whatever it might be. Yeah, the end users will always get notified. If they have to complete a work logbook or whatever evidence they have to do, you know, outside their college phase, you can build all of that in, that they're logging that they can present to the apprentices, or you can present on their behalf. They'll always get alerted. Normally 90, 60, 30 days, and then closer as the weeks go on. Which is extremely important, you know, and they can also add it to their own calendar based on the notifications that they get from the system, you know, to always remind them. Basically, if people forget about something, it's a choice, because the amount of notifications the system can send, they can't avoid it, you know. So it's a choice if they decide not to do it after that, you know.
That's brilliant. Final question here, Brendan. What's the typical process to creating and onboarding an induction journey?
Yeah, so that'd be more directed to our onboard and induction module. So if a company comes to us, or we're talking to one of our clients, they want to streamline their onboarding journey, is what's normally said to us. Essentially, what we do is, right, what questions do you want to ask someone joining? Whether it's a direct staff, an agency, a contractor, you can set up all your different templates and all your different onboarding journeys depending on what they are. You can also select what languages that you want. If an end user says, my first language is French, and they want to deliver it in that, the content can be associated with it. So you get your form, you digitalize that. The next thing is, right, do you want them to do content? So do you want to build your own induction and host it? Normally a PowerPoint presentation that we change to a video. Do you want to make it question sets during, before, after? And do you want it to be pass fail? There could be all of this kind of stuff all the way along. Once you do that part, then they're inducted into the business. And then if each job role might have a specific set of requirements they need to do when they're starting, if you want to go to that level of detail. Otherwise, you can just say, I want you to do your onboarding, I want you to do your induction, I want you to sign off on a couple of risk assessments, and then create my certificate at the end with a photograph and sign it. It can be that simple. Or you can go real complex to say, Joe Bloggs is starting, he wants to have everything in French, here's the induction, here's my policies, and he's becoming an electrician, so here's all the specific details he needs to do for that role. And they can go on that 16-week journey, as we said as well. It can be as easy or as complex as you want. If you're starting off at the beginning, as I'll always say, go easy first, and then just add on all the way through.
Fantastic. That's great. Brendan, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who has attended today. We will be sending out a copy of the presentation, and there'll also be access to a white paper which will explore some of the topics in a bit more detail. And yeah, we'll hope to see you all soon. And thank you again, Brendan.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thanks everyone for taking the time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.